وأنعم على نبينا الكريم الأكرم صلى الله عليه وسلم صلى الله وسلم وبارك وأنعم على نبينا الكريم الأكرم صلى الله عليه وسلم.
So I'd like to welcome you all here in the Zia-Ul-Quran Mosque. Firstly, I'd like to thank Interfaith Glasgow who have given us the opportunity to host you guys here. I myself, I went to, we had 3 festival programs. I was there a couple of months ago in the Gurdwara, then we had one at the church, and now this is the final one, I believe, which is in the mosque. So as Muslims we have many festivals. We have Eid al-Fitr, we have the Eid celebrations which follow after Ramadan. One specific celebration that the Muslims celebrate is the coming and the birth of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So he was born in the year 571, so that's almost 1400 years ago. And the month that he was born in Arabic, we call it Zia-Ul-Quran. So just like our brothers from the Jewish faith, the Muslim calendar is based on the moon, is lunar rather than based on the sun. So our months then rotate throughout the year. So that's why you will see Ramadan sometimes in winter, which is great for us because the fast is 6 hours. But sometimes, because every year the days go back 10 days, so sometimes Ramadan like now has fallen into summer, which is quite difficult for us. So the month in which the Prophet Muhammad was born is known as Rabi'ul-Awwal, which is translated as the first spring. And his birth is almost, for Muslims, is something which is very dear to our hearts, because we believe when he came into Arabia at that time, Arabia was a very dark place. The tribes were disunited. Women were getting killed. There was theft, robbery, and so forth. But Muhammad came, and he came with a code of ethics, and he made uncivilized Bedouin Arabs into a civilized society, and he gave us our faith, which is Islam. So he brought light into a dark place. So for us, then the term we call it a Mawlid. So Mawlid literally means birth, and it's the birth of the Prophet, peace be upon him. And we celebrate it every year. It's not just celebrated in mosques; it's celebrated in houses. In fact, this year, we're very fortunate that the birth of Muhammad kind of coincided with Christmas. So you would see a lot of the Muslim households, there'll be a lot of lights. You've probably seen that in the south side. Probably wondering, these guys don't celebrate Christmas, but why do they have lights? So we celebrate Mawlid just like you celebrate the Christmas, minus the Christmas tree. But we have lights, and we have a kind of a famous symbol which represents the shape of the foot of the Prophet, peace be upon him, or Prophet Muhammad. That's something again which is very symbolic and very dear. So a lot of the houses, they will have this symbol, and it's generally green lights. So the coming of Muhammad essentially was the coming of Islam. And in particular, the Mawlid celebrations are very much celebrated with great enthusiasm amongst the Sufi Muslims. And a lot of you probably know there are different types of groups within Islam, and one of the mainstream ones are the Sufi Muslims who really commemorate the coming of Muhammad. So we, as Zia-Ul-Quran, had almost 15 functions of the Mawlid. So this is probably the 15th function you're attending, but we've had daily people coming in. And the Mawlid really consists of talking about the Prophet, his miracles, his coming, the miracles that took place when he came, the later part of his life when he moved from Mecca into Medina, when he established the first kind of Muslim city, how relationships were with other faiths. So this is something which is very important. So we talk about that. And then that's followed by a lot of singing. In fact, if you go to some Mawlid programs in Africa or even in the subcontinent, these programs could take up to 7 to 8 hours of the day. So don't worry, we're not going to keep you here right until the morning. We try to keep this as brief as possible. So we hopefully plan to finish by 8:30. So we're going to have some Sufi chanting, and we have printed some sheets of some poems even in English. hope that you can join in with us. And later we're going to have a talk by one of the committee members, Dr. Idris, who's going to talk to you a bit about the mosque history and so forth. But for Sufi Muslims, Mawlid was an occasion of bringing people together, even from different faiths, and celebrating the birth of Muhammad. We have great Western academic scholars. We have Gandhi, we have other Bernard Shaw, who spoke highly of Muhammad as someone who brought moral values and brought a lot of positive to the world. So at the time that we're living in now, which is very sensitive, especially for Muslims, especially with the media backlash and some of the atrocities that have taken place in the West, and in particular the Paris attacks, we Sufi Muslims feel it is very important that the true message of Islam is actually sent out. And this can only be done when we have a positive image of Prophet Muhammad. So one of the many interesting hadith that we come across is when the Prophet when he was invited into Medina, the people of Medina came out to welcome him. And he was born in Mecca, and that's where the Kaaba is. And the Kaaba was built by, as we all know, was built by Abraham. And at that time the Arabs worshipped many forms of gods and so forth. So according to Muslims, they had left the true teachings of Abraham. So Prophet Muhammad came, he was born in 571 CE, and he was born as an orphan, and he was later a shepherd. So he had a very tough upbringing. And in fact, in the Mawlid talks, we were taught that when he went to different cities to preach, one particular city, he went to Taif to call people towards Islam, and we were told that he was stoned by the local people to the extent that blood actually came out and poured. And we were told that at that time the Archangel Gabriel came down and said to Muhammad that, "Oh Muhammad, if you want, I can erase this Taif into dust and destroy the people, what they have done." And the Prophet Muhammad, a very pivotal time, we believe, could have taken that charge and destroyed the people, but he said, "I have come as a mercy to the people." Right? I have come as a mercy. And then he later goes back to Mecca. After living in Medina for almost 53 years, he's then called to a city in Medina. And the people of Medina were very receptive of the message of Islam as opposed to the Meccans. The Meccans were very harsh. The people of Medina had a very soft heart. So he went and he migrated, and this famous migration starts the beginning of the Islamic calendar. So currently we are in the Islamic year of 1437, excellent. So this is the 1437. This is the Islamic year, and it actually begins with the migration of the Prophet from Mecca to Medina. It was such a pivotal event, so it marks the beginning, essentially, of the Islamic calendar. But we are told that the Medinan people were very soft at heart, to the extent now, many Muslims who go to pilgrimage, you go to Mecca, you'll see the people are quite tough and harsh and pushing you about. The people of Medina are very sweet, they're very welcoming. This traces back at the time of the Prophet. So he is coming, and the people of Medina come out, and they're so anxious, they're waiting for him to come, and they sing this beautiful hymn and poetry, which hopefully we're actually going to sing today, and is welcoming the Prophet. And as Muslims, when we recite this now, we think that just the way that Prophet Muhammad came and illuminated the city of Medina, we believe that through our chanting, Muhammad is going to illuminate our dark hearts that we have. So he comes into Medina, he is received in Medina, and the first thing he does is he makes an agreement with the local Jewish and the Christian people that they have the right to practice their faith and actually to live in the city. And then we see this happening again. Muhammad's companion Umar, who went to Palestine, same thing, he gave the rights. So these are some of the positive messages, especially in this year, which we've been celebrating the Mawlid, because of what's happened along the... We're always saying that Islam's against terrorism, Muhammad's against terrorism. There's absolutely no factual account of him taking an innocent life at all. In fact, he was a mercy. So that's the really... that's the backdrop of Mawlid. And every year we actually celebrate the birth of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And in fact, some Muslims they're not shy to celebrate the birth of Jesus as well. In fact, in the Quran, when Jesus is talked about in the Quran, he says, "Salamun yawma wulidtu," that peace be upon me on the day that I was born. and we were told that Jesus prayed to God who sent down him heavenly food, and that was a day of celebration, a day of Eid for them. So we have, in fact, Muslims, some of them celebrate Christmas, they give presents and so forth. So I'm going to stop there. Firstly, because my voice is going, but secondly, so that's the really background of Mawlid. So I would like to call Dr. Idris forward, who is one of the committee members. He's actually a doctor in Southern General Hospital. So not only does he take care of our spiritual ailments, but if you've got any health problems today, any questions about medicine, he's not shy to answer them. So for the next 10 minutes, Dr. Idris is going to talk to you about the mosque, and then we're going to proceed to the naseebs and the chanting. Thank you.
وأنعم على نبينا الكريم الأكرم صلى الله عليه وسلم صلى الله وسلم وبارك وأنعم على نبينا الكريم الأكرم صلى الله